Deciding to Major in Computer Science with Nick Orlowsky.
The Azure DevOps Podcast is a show for developers and DevOps professionals shipping software using Microsoft technologies. Each show brings you hard-hitting interviews with industry experts, innovating better methods, and sharing success stories. Listen on to learn how to increase quality, ship quickly, and operate well. And now your host, Jeffrey Palermo.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jeffrey Palermo, your host for helping you and your teams move fast, deliver quality, and to run your software with confidence in Azure, all while using everything that the .NET ecosystem has to offer. The podcast is sponsored by ClearMeasure, a software architecture company empowering .NET teams to be self-sufficient and able to deliver world-class results. ClearMeasure is hiring architects as well as .NET engineers who'd like a path to become an architect. So you can go to clearmeasure.com/careers for that. And our guest today on the show is Nick Orlowsky. Nick is a rising sophomore college student at the University of Texas in Austin, and he's majoring in computer science, and he knew from an early age that programming would be his career calling. He was a leader in his high school computer science classes and even competed in the Microsoft ImagineCup competitions, also UIL competitions, hackathons, and much, much more. He currently, through his schoolwork, works for various companies on programming projects while taking classes at UT, and is currently spending this summer programming for Home Depot Corporate. So, Nick, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for coming on. I'll kind of, by way of intro, where you and I met. I've been a mentor to the high school that you went to, and kind of introduced to you and some of the other classmates. And I've been a guest speaker at some of the computer science classes at that high school, and that's when we first met. But you knew way before high school that you kind of liked computers and you kind of liked programming. But when did you know? What was your first foray where you said, "Okay, I really like this. This is what I'm going to do"?
Yeah, well, I guess it goes back to, I mean, the first time I ever programmed was probably elementary school, and it was, basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think me and my friends wanted to make a video game or something because, we played video games like all kids. And, we kind of had journals of stuff we thought would be cool. I think we actually filled 3 or 4 journals of things we would want to build in a game. And obviously it's stuff, a 4th grader could, never program.
Mm-hmm.
But, at one point we were well, if we were going to make this, who's going to program it? And I was the one who kind of took that step. And I think I initially got into Python was the first language I learned.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed a couple tutorials online of just building I think a hangman game and your typical beginner stuff. And at that point I wasn't too really attached to it yet, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think probably later, a year later, I got into working with Unity, which is a game engine that mostly utilizes C# for its the aspects where you're actually writing code.
Right.
And that, you can have 3D stuff there, and it was pretty easy to do if you had a tutorial to follow along with or some documentation. And at that point, I thought, you could build a lot of stuff with, a 5th grader at the time, just with coding. I thought that was really cool. And at one point, I can't remember exactly when it was, but everything just kind of clicked of how stuff worked, where I didn't have to kind of lean on tutorials as much. I could just kind of figure out by ways of reading through documentation and just, basic logic of how to write programs without really needing to, copy as much code from others. I mean, obviously you never get to zero on that, but
mm-hmm.
You can start doing your own thinking.
Right.
And yeah, so I guess that's really when I kind of fell in love with it. And around then, I think I would try and spend recesses inside, in the computers in the library writing. They didn't have any IDEs installed, so you had to use the scripting language on the computers.
Mm-hmm.
You could write scripts, play a text game or something. And I eventually got banned from the computers for doing that in elementary school because I guess the teachers didn't like having like a terminal open, which I guess is understandable.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's really around when I started to really fall in love with programming.
Okay. And from my observation, there's high school students that take a computer science class, and there's plenty of those. And then there's people where it's almost like that's all you want to do, and you just have to take your other classes because it's required and you got to get through them. Where were you on that spectrum?
Yeah, I was really into computer science. Like most of my time spent at home, I would be working on, that one project that I worked with you on, Cab Cache.
Mm-hmm.
And I would register. I think I took almost every computer science course I could. I think there were a couple of ones that I didn't get to just because I had to fill my schedule with other stuff. But I think junior year of high school, I was able to get like around half of my schedule outside of like cross country, which took up 2 class periods,
Mm-hmm.
was computer science related classes. And that was a really fun semester for me.
Nice.
I got to learn a lot in those classes.
Well, the Microsoft ImagineCup just kind of concluded for this year in 2022. But for those who might be interested in doing it next year, is it hard to enter? What was your experience with Microsoft's ImagineCup and deciding to, and then actually getting into that competition?
Yeah, I forget where we first heard about it, but I mean, it was pretty easy to enter. I mean, they have like a couple of prompts you have to fill out, and you have to write a little, like I think 1 or 2 page document about like the tech you use and kind of like a business pitch for it. And then you obviously had to build a demoable software. I don't think it had to be too complete, just enough for a good demo.
Mm-hmm.
And you could record like a 1 minute or 90-second pitch video, something like that. So it was pretty easy to get into. I mean, as long as you have a solid idea and a team, I think you have a pretty good shot at it.
Okay. Now, from my memory, you did more than just a demoable application.
Yeah.
You were so. What would be your recommendation for how big of a project that people should attempt
For ImagineCup?
Yeah, for ImagineCup.
I don't know, because I think the ones that win are usually like college students who have like they've done some like research tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think one from the year we entered had something to do with like insulin, like automatic insulin injection. So I mean, I guess I can't gauge it too well, but something you put like a lot of thought into. Like they're really looking for big projects there with the potential to do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think ours was kind of below that bar because it was mostly doing stuff that was already being done. I mean, we had a couple of cool features that were kind of unique, but I don't think it was enough for the cut.
Sure. So you're roughly about halfway through your university program,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Now, this is only one college, but what kind of technology are in the classes these days? What kind of languages are they asking you to take? What kind of classes are required versus optional in the computer science program?
Yeah. So when you come to UT, you have to take I think there's 5 or 6 required classes for computer science majors that have to do with computer science.
Mm-hmm.
You have an intro to programming and data structures, which are kind of what they sound like. The first one's just, basic Java. The second one deals more with algorithms and, kind of stuff to pass technical interviews. Those 2 are in Java. And then you have computer architecture, which I just completed. That's mostly dealing with C. You do some stuff with assembly in that one, and deals with a lot more low-level stuff. And that's actually been my favorite computer science class so far. I am kind of looking forward to next semester's, which is operating systems. And I'm not sure exactly what language you use in that. I'd imagine we'd be dealing with C a lot just because it's lower-level stuff. And then you have 2 theory classes, which are more math classes than anything, like algorithms and discrete math.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, mostly it's Java and C, and there's a database class I'm taking next semester that I think is mostly relational. So it's not ancient technology, but I don't like you're not on the cutting edge. Like I don't think they're teaching like Neo4j or React in any classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it is hard for the curriculum to be formed around something new when just by definition 80% of the things that are new kind of fade away. And so if they did go out for something new, they have an 80% chance of teaching students something that's already become irrelevant or obsolete, or at least not fulfilling the dream that it originally was envisioned for.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think like the kind of concept of just teaching you like the underlying concepts, and then you go into internships where you get to work with like really learn like the modern tech stacks and like kind of apply what you learn in college is a good system.
Sure. Well, I remember back in the late 90s, I took a relational database class, and for me, I had already taught myself how to program, so a lot of that, but that one has been foundational. I mean, I think back in my career, when would I have learned all that theory just on the job? On the job, I would learn SQL Server and how to store things and whatnot, but actually the thought process behind designing it. So, there was talk about relational databases going the way of the dodo bird. No, document databases, blob storage, all those ideas. Like it had a little nugget of usefulness in certain cases, but the premise that it would become the new normal and relational data would go away, it just hasn't happened because relational data is the norm. Oh, and then by the way, some of your data is documents. Some of your data is JSON or blob. So, yeah, I think you'll learn a lot in that course, and you'll use it for decades to come too. So, well, this summer, you're working for Home Depot.
Yeah, I am. I just started on Monday.
Nice. You are a professional programmer. If you get paid to write code, that's the definition.
Yeah.
So do you already know the tech stacks that you're using, or did you have to ramp up on some new ones really quick?
We're working on a new project that they want the interns to build. It's supposed to be some internal tool. They haven't directed us towards a tech stack, but I'm kind of wary of whether they'll let us kind of pick and choose. From what I've seen, just from work, like kind of looking at like what other people are doing in the company, which I've kind of had the time to explore before really diving into anything, because we're not really working on projects until I think next week. I think they mostly use, I think I'll probably end up using Java if we do any back-end work, and then React in the front end, which, I mean, it's pretty modern. Like Home Depot is one of the companies that, if you look at the Glassdoor reviews, they have a pretty modern tech stack for, a retailer, which is pretty nice. And like, they build a lot of cool stuff in-house that I don't know if I can talk about, but
yeah, you can't at any company. You typically can't talk about the details, but so with your situation, you're already pretty well convinced that you want to be a programmer for the long term, and you're doing enough work where you would have been scared away from it by now if that wasn't the case. But there are students who go all the way through a university program and then come out and then get a job and then realize a few months in, wait a minute, I'm sitting at a desk all day long. I don't like this, or I have to stare at a computer screen. How do you classify the things where specifically you're a lot different from some of your other peers, and what do it, let's talk to the high school students. What traits might suggest that they are appropriate or wired appropriately for a programming career? What would you say to that?
That's kind of a tough one. I think like one of the big things to weed out, and I've seen this with a good handful of classmates, but definitely not a huge portion of them, is a lot of people want to do it just for the salary, because you get some very attractive salaries, especially once you get up to like the FANG level companies.
Yep.
I think if that's the reason why you're in it, you're really going to hate it. I think you need to have like kind of good like logical thinking skills, math skills, but like I don't think you have to be like some genius. Like I think when I took the AP exam for calculus, I did not do so well on it. Given it was senior year with COVID and everything, so I was kind of checked out.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to like have demonstrate a good level of thinking, because if you can't think in that way, it's going to be really hard to apply that to a computer where all problems eventually break down into very simple logic. And then you need to just like programming, which I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to determine if you like it or not. But if you're going to the computer to write some code, I think if you're doing it because you want to do it, you want to build a cool project, you want to have fun with it, I think that means you love programming. If you're doing it because I need it on my resume, if I want to get into a good college, I need to have side projects, then I'd say you're kind of borderline. Like the projects I worked on, I found once I was doing like, they ask you to estimate the time you spend on like per week for college applications.
Mm-hmm.
That when like I went through and kind of started estimating by like kind of just keeping a clock running, whenever I was working on it, was like a lot more than I thought it would be. Like, and I didn't really notice the time passing because I just come home from school, open it up, try and build like a couple features in because that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's night like that, go down, eat dinner, and then repeat. So.
Am I safe to say that you had to be called for dinner?
Yeah, I did. Like, I think like a lot of people like their parents get on them for playing video games, or they'll get on them like you need to spend less time doing X and go outside or study or something. Mine was definitely programming.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever like my parents would call me and then like I'd come down like a couple minutes later because I wanted to wrap something up. And they'd be like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I was working on projects," and kind of saying like that.
Right.
Where you kind of feel a little bit of guilt on it.
Many thanks to our podcast sponsor, ClearMeasure. ClearMeasure is a software architecture company that empowers clients' development teams to be self-sufficient, moving fast, delivering quality, and running their systems with confidence. Whether starting a new project or developing new technologies or techniques, ClearMeasure sets up your team to deliver world-class results. Learn more at www.clearmeasure.com. ClearMeasure, empowering software delivery.
I think it is common, at least in my observation as well, the losing track of time. Getting into something and then looking up and another hour has passed, and how many times did you decide to just not go to sleep because you just couldn't stop what you were engrossed in?
I don't think I've only pulled an all-nighter once to do that, and it was at a hackathon. But I've stayed up pretty routinely till like pretty late in the night, like 3 a.m. about to work on stuff. Like I ran cross country in high school,
mm-hmm.
and that's like you have to be at practice at like 6 a.m. So you have to get to bed pretty early. So my typical the only day I could really stay up like past 12 would be like Saturday because we don't have practice on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much every Saturday I would be pushing that into like 2 or 3 a.m. working on stuff. And then it was really nice because like I really like doing that because I generally like kind of feel tired and want to go to sleep, but then I kind of have like that nag to fix like the one last bug to get this feature working,
mm-hmm.
and then that'll keep me up another hour or two. And then once you finally get it working, you get to like lay down, and it's like a really nice feeling to just lay down after doing that.
Yeah,
and kind of finally get some rest,
satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think those are really good signs. Really good signs that someone may be uniquely wired for a career in programming. I would agree with those, and also on the computer, especially when you're on the internet, there's plenty of things to get distracted by. Actually, some of my kids' peers have told me, "Oh, I don't watch TV. I just watch YouTube clips." And so there's plenty of things online to get distracted by. But I think maybe another sign is you actually get distracted by coding, mm-hmm. because coding seems more interesting than going off and looking at something else.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself as well? You'd rather be programming
Yeah, I do that a lot. And one of the great things about that was in high school, typically if you were like done with your work in a class or like it was a slower day, they wouldn't just let you go on YouTube or something because they want you to, do something school related. But I could pretty much always pull up like some project I was working on and just write code for it and wouldn't get questioned because, I was taking a computer science class.
Right.
And I think that was, a really nice thing to be able to do.
Okay. Well, with K through 12 schools being kind of hit or miss with the formal teaching of typing, what has your typing journey been? When did you really learn the QWERTY keyboard?
Yeah, so I learned it pretty late, I think, because when we started off in the first computer science class I took in high school, they made us take a typing test. And I was around average. I think is average like in the 40s.
I'm not sure.
I was around average. I don't remember the number though. And I was one of like I wasn't exactly a Hutton Peck. Like I would kind of like keep my hands like hovered over and like I would have to look at the keyboard while I typed. And I was doing that for, years while I was coding. And then one day I bought one of those like kind of nicer keyboards, like the mechanical ones that click. And I was like, okay, well, now I should probably sit down for a couple of days and learn how to type. And I went to one of those websites that, teaches you how to type. And now I can type, if I'm really focused, around 80 words per minute.
Nice.
So I'm not in the, like I have friends who can go up to 100. They're insane. But it definitely was later. Like I think it was sophomore year in high school when I really got to, typing well. And I think sometimes like when I hit like a key that I don't usually hit, like maybe the left or right arrows, whatever the formal name for those are, I have to look down every now and then, but I'm pretty good with typing now.
Yeah. And then there's the 10 key typing. Of course, on laptop keyboards, there's only the numbers at the top, but the nicer keyboards that go clickety clack, and you've got the function keys. The modern laptops have basically stolen all of our function keys or put them behind a function lock. So for programmers, we've got to have that full 104 key keyboard, and just your hands have to float across it. I don't know what the average is, but I do remember being it was a long time ago. I was initially at 40 words per minute in my typing class in 7th grade, when we learned on electric typewriters. So I took a typing class in 7th grade way back when. But yeah, I lament so many schools not having formal typing instruction. Do you remember the typing website that worked for you?
Yeah, it was typing.com.
Oh, okay, typing. I think that's pretty popular. We'll put that in the show notes, just for anybody who wants to use it or even has kids that just want to tell them, hey, sit down for 15 minutes and do this.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good. So besides for the current internship, what languages or tools are you dabbling in at the moment?
At the moment, one of the tools that I've kind of wanted to use for a while, but with college, it's so hard to work on side projects that you can like really sink your teeth into. But now that it's the summer and I have a little more time, I'm trying to work a little bit more with Neo4j. I think about 2 years ago, I started working with Mongo, and like I was like exploring like the non-relational databases. And I mean, I agree with what you said, where like everything eventually goes back to where you need relational or where it's going to be a best fit. But the other ones are kind of cool to play around with, especially the multi-model ones. Like I think ArongoDB is one of them.
I think all of the major commercial database engines have gone multiple models just because the market needs it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've been kind of playing around with different databases. And right now I'm Neo4j. Programming language-wise, I've started to pick up Rust a bit. I have a couple of classmates who really like Rust. And I mean, I think if you're doing low-level programming or something where you need a lot of speed, it's a really great language. I mean, it's preferable to C, in my opinion, just because it gives you a little bit of safety without a huge performance cut. But I think its problem right now, at least for me, is it's it's not a super mature language in terms of like ecosystem. Like I think with .NET, like pretty much anything you can think of will be in the NuGet package repository.
Mm-hmm.
But with Rust, like I was trying to build something to analyze Wi-Fi packets, and I don't think I could find something that could decode the packets for me. So writing that yourself can be, it's time spent doing something you don't want to do.
Right. So fast forward, I don't know, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, there's so many different programming jobs. Do you see yourself programming just individually? Does that really jazz you up, or do you like working with other programmers and assembling teams and doing larger projects, or are you still trying to find that out?
I think I'm still kind of in the middle on that, because it's nice to have a team to like bounce ideas off of and kind of be able to work together. But at the same time, it's really nice to just be able to get things done kind of on your schedule and the way you want to do it. For instance, at I was contracting to write some code for a company. I still am contracting with them a little bit. And I had to build a feature to deliver, they want an in-house kind of ad network, which wasn't too bad. They just want ads to show up in certain places, the app that we streamed from S3.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty nice to be able to like decide like all the implementation details on that and how I wanted to do it without having to, have a team meeting, delegate stuff to people. One person doesn't follow a spec, the other person's, a couple days behind, and then you integrate it all and it's a mess. It's just nice to kind of be able to do something yourself, but it's harder to break up super big tasks like that.
Yeah. Yep. It's a mix. And then of course, the larger the project becomes, the more impossible it is to do it without a team.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, is there any other learnings that you would, or advice that you would give for the maybe the high schooler who not yet interviewed or chosen what to do after high school, but really is jazzed up with programming?
Yeah, I would say like the way I learn programming, which I find a good number of people do, but not a whole lot, is to kind of find something within reason that you want to build. Like a decently sized project, and they'll probably take you a couple months to work on. And just try and build that. And you're going to need to, look up a lot of things. You're going to need to do a lot of research. Probably have to restart a few times. But it's the best way to get to work with something you really want to work with, to kind of build a full experience front to back. You'll be able to learn back end, front end. You'll learn how to host stuff on the different cloud providers. You can learn your CI/CD pipelines and a bunch of other stuff.
Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks so much for coming back on the show and sharing your journey and kind of giving the advice for the up and coming future generations of programmers.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been really great.
My pleasure. And until next time, keep shipping.
You've been listening to the Azure DevOps Podcast, a show for developers and DevOps professionals shipping software using Microsoft technologies. Go to www.azuredevops.show for show notes and other episodes. On behalf of your host, Jeffrey Palermo, and our sponsors, thanks for listening, and may God bless you.